Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and I hope you are having a beautiful, beautiful day on this Monday. The end of the NCAA's happening tonight. How does your bracket look? I don't mind. I was out like the first week. I didn't even make it through like the first weekend. But you know, the tournament really starts like on a Thursday. By Sunday, I was done. My younger son, he actually is tied for the winner of his pool, and $500, something like that, goes to the winner. It's all about the score tonight. Nobody actually has the winner. So Virginia is playing Texas Tech, and in his pool of buddies nobody actually has either one of the teams. So it's coming down to the tiebreaker. I think he's in good shape. He's got a lower score than whoever it is he's going against. So Texas Tech and Virginia tonight. They were great games. I mean, if you want to be entertained, at least pretty much the whole tournament was a lot of close competitive basketball games. And as far as I know, and I could be wrong, I don't think either one of these teams has ever won it before. So there you go. That concludes your sports for the day. 800-951-0592. That's our toll-free number. The website at allamericangold.com. And by the way, in case you wanted to know, it's beautiful here. So there's the weather. The sun is out. There you go. Not quite 100 degrees yet. We probably got at least a few more weeks, 3 or 4 more weeks before we get to the triple digits, but absolutely gorgeous here in the Valley of the Sun, and so many things to talk about. Over the weekend, all kinds of things. Now, you know what? Friday, after the markets close. So in Arizona, I think that's like 2 o'clock, something like that. It may even be 1 o'clock now. I don't know. Daylight savings time gets me all messed up. That's when you really want to start to pay attention because that's when you start learning about what really is. It feels like the whole rest of the week, like Monday through Friday, okay, cameras are on. Cue the deer. And let's get the spin police going, and then over the weekend, we'll tell you where it's really happening. I'll keep you up to date on that. We had more central bank gold buying. I know you're getting tired of hearing it, but I'm going to tell you, you better be your own central bank. And if you don't, then you got no one to blame but yourself. And I know it's hard. I know because, your financial planner, if you're lucky enough to have one, right? If you actually have enough money that you have one, right? And maybe he goes to your church or he's a buddy of yours from the golf course or a neighbor. Listen, they have no clue what's really happening and what they count on, though. They count on being able to convince you that this is what you should be doing, right? And they've been down this whole campaign, decades worth of campaigns about how you need to have this 401k, right? Remember, they robbed us. They did. It was brilliant. I mean, part of me, listen, don't get me wrong. I'm jealous. I am jealous. Because you know what? This is what they do with fiat money. Obviously, they've done it before. I mean, it always goes to zero every single time. And we're witnessing it right now. I would imagine this is how it has worked throughout the centuries. Now, the one thing that's different is here we've got the national media, which, of course, who owns it? You know who owns it, right? And so you have access to information that maybe you didn't have in the past, which I think's allowed them to get away with it a little longer. But we're sitting here and we're watching all of these things play out. You think about now the national debt. We added another. We just hit $22 trillion, and we've already added another couple $100 billion already. Now, it is April, so I'm hoping will be some form of surplus for this month, right? Because you got to pay Uncle Sam. What is that? End of the week? This time next week is when you got to pay Uncle Sam. But so far, the deficit numbers we talked about up 39% year over year, right? And you're sitting there like, wait, what? What happened? Was there a big economic collapse? Was there a big war? Was there a big anything? No. Right? Think about all the people that we're nominating to the central bank now. Right? Stephen Moore, Herman Cain, right? These guys are spenders. Right? No more rate hikes. Right now, as a matter of fact, everyone's betting on whether or not we're going to get rate cuts. Right? No one's talking about rate hikes anymore. Right? We got to 2.4%. That's the official number of the federal funds reserve rate. I just was laughing. I was thinking about that commercial, and I apologize for Phoenix because you can't hear it. Over the weekend, Jason obviously cut a commercial. Hilarious. Talking about the bloodsuckers, right? The central banks are the bloodsuckers. Ray Dalio was on 60 Minutes. Did you see it? Probably not. He was on the Idiot Box this morning, and if you can find the clip, Joe Kernan, he's on CNBC, and he just doesn't want to let Ray Dalio talk at all. And, of course, he's talking about there's a problem. Nobody has, the kids today don't have the opportunity I did when I was going through high school and school. Talk about that and a whole bunch more. Don't touch that down. Is capitalism the problem? Do we need reform? And for me, you know, I guess when you really think about it, yes and no. Because truly, what is capitalism? Right? When you think about, right, private entities owning businesses and, right, less government, right? The government shouldn't be owning stuff. Right? You think how big government has gotten, how bloated it's gotten. You know, we're going to spend somewhere close to like $5 trillion. I mean, I think by 2020, 2021, we'll be over $5 trillion. $5 trillion. That's just federal government. Right? Nobody sees a problem with that. I think a lot of people do. Are we better off or worse off as government has expanded? Right? Are we better off or worse off since we went to fiat money? Why did we go to fiat money? You know, do you know? Right? And I can tell you I'll give you the Cliff Note version. First of all, and I think primarily, the people that were the great capitalists didn't like how things were going. And we're talking about, you know, J.P. Morgan, Rockefellers, Warburgs, right? The richest people in the world. Because their banks kept losing depositors. Right? As the country moved westward and we had the great gold rush. They were taking their money, what little they had, out of the bank. And then wherever they arrived, right, there was a bank there and they put the money in there. And usually they were, what, a one-shot bank, right? Hey, this is the only bank I have. I found a gold deposit, right, somewhere in California or Nevada or Arizona, right? And I opened up a bank. People put their money in it. They didn't like that. They didn't like the competition. So what did they do? Right? They simply, changed the rules. created the Federal Reserve, and all of you know the story, and if you don't, you need to. It's the greatest collusion of all time. People who were so secretive that they made so certain no one would find out, because if they got found out, they'd be tried for treason. Right? And we got this fiat money. Right? Even though the founding fathers, they warned us. And I know, they were racist white men, right? I know that part. I get it, right? Take down all the statues, take down all that stuff. Okay, fine. Setting that aside, they wanted to take the best from all of the governments that had come before. Right? These men, they studied it. And they said, you know what? We want to make sure that America doesn't fall into the same trap. And if we do this, we will become the greatest country on earth. One of the most important things was having to do with the money. They didn't want us to be put at the mercy of the bankers. And really, not just the bankers, because that's easy, right? Come on, Double, that's easy. Blaming the bankers. They didn't want to fall victim to themselves. Why do you think it was? You go back to 1776, 1876. Right? 1933. That was a long time. And we had no government debt. I don't say none. We had billions of dollars total. Right? And that was only because there were some wars that we didn't finish. We hadn't finished paying them off yet. Do you know, and it takes time. See, one of the big other factors behind getting rid of the gold, right? Why did the central bank get rid of it? Because they started in 1913. They didn't get rid of it then. Right? They needed the crisis. See, that was the plan all along. They wanted to be able to spend no matter what. Really, in its simplest form, this is what it's all about. They wanted to spend money. Why? Because they'd have to borrow it. And guess who wins when you borrow the money? Oh, the banker. They wanted the government, hey, you know what? You don't need to have these shackles. Right? We don't want you to be shackled by the fact that, we don't have enough money to go out and make all these promises. Forget about that. Go ahead and do it. It feels good. And even through, obviously World War II, which, by the way, we're getting ready to take that number. Think about that. The highest debt levels ever, I guess, when they, and of course, obviously today, it's $22.2 trillion. But they want to use percentages and this and that. They say, the highest ever was the height of World War II, which we're getting ready to take that out. Problem is, there's no big world war going on or anything like that. But even after World War II, if you set that period of time aside, And by the way, just so you know, you want to know what the deficit was at the end of World War II? It was $250 billion, right? Sometimes we go $250 billion into debt in a single month. That was our debt for all time after World War II. And then we ran just as many budget surpluses as budget deficits the rest of the 40s and the 50s. Yeah. We didn't add to the debt at all. It's kind of hung out there. But it took time. Got to remember, too, what was the other thing they did? They banned us from owning gold. Because they knew, hey, these guys are going to figure it out. And they'll start not putting all of their money into the bank. They won't put it into the stock market. Right? They won't invest in stuff that we don't understand. Right? Of course, the TV wasn't really even around much then. So you couldn't own gold. Smart. Again, I'm jealous. These guys were smart. They wanted you to believe in the almighty Federal Reserve note. And then all of the things that our founding fathers worried about started coming true. I know, though, they like to claim that couple of years during the Clinton time that they had a budget surplus. They did not. They had what we called a paper surplus. Would have been a surplus if they actually had money in the Social Security Trust Fund. If they actually bought the bonds, right? If they actually had bought the bonds, then yes. But they didn't, right? We know that. They spent the money. And then they paid, they on paper, pay interest. And that's how they got with the interest payment on the, got to remember now, this was the late 90s. Social Security Trust Fund was like almost $3 trillion. Of course, what was the interest rate back then? 5, 6, 7%? Right? Hey, that was a big check that they pretended on paper. On paper, you're ridiculous. They really didn't. Do you know that we haven't run a budget surplus since the 60s? A true one? See, this is what our founding fathers knew would happen. We got this huge expanse of government. Now we have a horrible wealth distribution problem. 70% of the 156 million people working make less than 50 grand. 70%. 50% make less than 30. I don't even know how many government subsidy programs we have. A couple hundred. Right? And now we sit here and of course, the capitalism part started coming into effect, right? Because they wanted you to believe that you weren't becoming poor. Right? And the stock market is the tool that they do this. They love to say when the stock market's at a new all-time high. Right? They get that idiot Warren Buffett out there who, by the way, no offense to Warren Buffett, I call him an idiot, I'm jealous. That's kind of the theme today. I'm jealous. He didn't do anything. He didn't make anything. What he was really good at, though, was buying stuff with other people's money, right? Give him credit. He was smart. You know what he needs to get credit for? He needs to be credited for having common sense. Really. He had the ability to look at a company and say, man, this is a great company. Their management runs things well, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to buy them. I mean, that's really how he made his money. Elon Musk, no thanks. Right? That guy's kind of weird. I don't think so. Of course, he bought Wells Fargo, so, maybe he needed to look a little harder there. But they slowly had to start taking things away. And in order to create this wealth effect, they started changing all the rules. And they changed the way they calculated everything. If you calculated on... Now, I know the 1980s was so long ago. I mean, the technology was horrible. But if we calculate unemployment the way we did in the 80s, do you know what the unemployment rate would be today? And no, I'm not going to tell you some outrageous number, but I'm just asking, do you know? I'm going to give you that answer. And when I do, I think things are going to make a little more sense for everybody. Patriot Radio News Hour, don't touch that down.
This is the Phyllis Schlafly Report, a daily commentary continuing the conservative pro-family legacy of Phyllis Schlafly. Now, the president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, Ed Martin.
Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal has taken the American political scene by storm over the last few months. For the new class of radical leftist Democrats in Congress, this is a dream come true for their quest to force socialism on we the people of America. For the old guard Democrats, this dream looks a lot more like a nightmare. And President Trump has seized upon the absurdity of his opponents, the presidential wannabes running for the Democrat nomination. No politician can mock the other side as effectively as Trump does, and the Green New Deal gives him much material to work with. Even House Speaker Nancy Pelosi disparaged the Green New Deal as the Green Dream, or whatever they call it. Perennial potential presidential candidate Michael Bloomberg buys into the climate change theory of the left, but cautioned against, quote, things that are pie in the sky, end quote, like the Green New Deal. Yet it seems doubtful that the old guard in the Democrat Party will be able to rein in the rising socialists who are not content with incremental changes. Old guard Democrat Senator Dianne Feinstein struggled to win re-election against a challenge by an underfunded leftist in California. And surely many other Democrats have taken notice of the political winds that are blowing strongly towards socialism in the Democrat Party. Meanwhile, there are other winds that the socialists desperately want to grab onto. Hawaii overwhelmingly supports the Democrat Party, but residents there are fighting a proposed wind farm on West Oahu. Installation of clunky eyesores atop Hawaii would be a green energy dream come true. But Hawaiian residents don't want them, and neither do many environmentalists. Wind farms blight the beautiful landscape, create a constant irritating noise, and injure wildlife. And they're just not efficient on top of that. Yet this is what the Democrat socialists want to impose on the entire United States in their fantasy that this might just reduce climate change. The Democrat socialists sweeping into the halls of Congress are forcing the old guard Democrats to show their hand. To be consistent, the Democrat leadership must either kowtow to the Green New Dealers' radical vision for America or break ranks and join the party of common sense Americans.
Thanks for listening to the Phyllis Schlafly Report. You'll be glad to know the legacy of Phyllis Schlafly continues, upheld by Ed Martin, president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, Chairman Helen Marie Taylor, Treasurer John Schlafly, a full staff in St. Louis and our nation's capital, and thousands of citizen volunteers, her Eagles, across the country. You can be part of that legacy at phyllisschlafly.com. That's phyllisschlafly.com.
We hear it every day. There's no inflation double. Come on. Ben Bernanke said there wasn't any. Janet Yellen says there wasn't any. Jay Powell says there isn't any. Every idiot they put on TV says there isn't any. Yet if you got to live in the real world, there's a whole lot of it, isn't there? I don't know what's going on with gas here. Do you see gas? $3. Now, I know, I guess we're special. I don't know what's going on. Circle K keeps running out of it. And I don't know, the refineries are broken, the pipeline's broke, something's broken. Fries is out, Wendy's yelling at me. There's no inflation. Are you kidding me? How did we get no inflation? The central bankers changed it. Yeah, remember? No, you don't remember. You weren't paying attention. If we tracked inflation the way we tracked it in the 80s or the 70s or the 60s or the 50s or the 40s, it'd be somewhere around 8%. Some say it's a little higher. I don't know. It's a lot. I know that. It's a lot. Go buy a house in this town. I don't know what happened to this town. This town's lost its mind again. We've seen it now. Of course, who did that? Central bank. I mean, if the Fed's funds rate was at 7% right now, right, you could still buy a house on the outskirts of town for $100,000. Instead, it's $300,000. Problem is, you're still making the same amount of money you made 15 years ago. And so this is really the problem. You want to reform capitalism? Go back to the principles that made this country great. Russia knows, China knows, they know. It's what they're trying to do. Hey, when we get ready, because here's what we know. Do you know Portugal used to be the world's reserve currency? Yeah, Portugal. And then it was Spain. Right? You hear about the Spanish real all the time, right? When the settlers were first coming over here, that was the reserve currency of the world. Then it was the French for a little while, then the British. Now it's us. And it's getting ready to be the Chinese. And the Chinese are doing what? Hoarding all the gold. They're the largest gold producer in the world. How much gold do they export? How about none? Zero. How much gold do they import? 1,000+ metric tons every year, give or take. Right, and now their central banks admitted, yeah, we're buying gold again. But don't worry, it's only 10, 11 metric tons a month. No biggie. You know, just so you know, a metric ton's 32,150 ounces of gold. So it's not, just 10 or 11 of those. It's fine. Of course, they don't tell you that their state-owned banks are also all buying, 10 or 11 metric tons. Right? Shh, it's fine. Don't worry, we're going to do one of those bookkeeping things. Unlike when the United States does it with their fake Social Security stuff. We're going to do a real one. Yeah, not with debt. No. Not with unfunded liabilities. Not with unmarketable securities. Nope. Yeah, we're going to do it with gold. Because gold's not a debt. It's not a promise to pay. You don't have to worry about the installation of bad software or restatement of earnings or some kind of a scandal. But this is really what we knew was going to come. They devalue. Then they lie about it, right? We're going to use this. Well, we went to really good schools. And the ones, they got the whiteboard and the marker, and it's got all the parentheses and imaginary numbers and symbols, right? They don't even use numbers. Right? The formulas are like letters and symbols. Right? You're like, what? You have no idea what it is. Right? They like to throw pie around a lot. Right? And not the pie that you eat either, right? You know what I'm saying? Throw that around a bunch of times. Infinity and stuff like that. So they'll get so bored, they'll take one look at that and walk away. And we did. And they came up with these great economic models. And remember, they told us, oh, yeah, just invest in the 401k, you'll be fine. And by the time you're 55, only be in bonds, get out of stocks, you'll be fine. You live off the interest. And then none of that happened. None of what they actually said happened. How many of you over the age of 55 are living on your your bank CDs right now? How many? That'd be none. You know, it's so funny. In a bank CD, you probably don't even get 2%. But even if you got 2%, right, you'd be broke in a hurry. This is what they've done. See, this is what gold and silver prevented them from doing. Couldn't have debt like this. Companies couldn't have borrowed the way they've done. True capitalism would exist. I think this is the problem. They've gotten rid of that and turned it into what? A central bank Ponzi scheme. Do you know how many companies on Wall Street would go out of business tomorrow if the interest rate was 6 or 7%? About half. About half. Couldn't afford to make the debt payments. $800-951-0592. Gold's up $6, $7, $12.97. Silver's up 10 cents right now, $15.20. The Dow was down triple digits as 115 as Boeing announced that China has canceled more plane orders. Get ready. You know, the earnings season is going to start now. Should be very, very interesting how these paper markets react because let's face it, profits are going to be down. Volumes and sales are going to be down. Dow 26,000 seems awfully expensive. That's all I'm saying. But remember where we're going now. I just told you how we got here. Right, we let the bank in, and they wanted to create debt. See, that was the thing about gold and silver they hated. And I love when they say, oh, the gold, it just didn't work. Right? That's what they say on TV all the time. What didn't work? What didn't work? We had a depression when you put the bankers in charge. Right? The roaring 20s got created because they wanted to what? Goose the money. And then they realized, man, if we could just get gold out of the way, we could really goose it. What makes more sense? Because you know what they'll tell you? Look at all the wealth we've created. Is it real wealth? Is it real wealth when only a few get the reward? Or is real wealth when the entire country does well? When's the last time the entire country did well? How long has it been now? I think back to when we went full fiat in 1971. Invented credit cards, student loan debt. Right? You buy 2 cars and a house almost everywhere in the country, maybe with the exception of a few places in California and New York. And I say maybe because I'm not certain. 2 cars and a house for $30,000 anywhere in the country. In the 1971. Right? That doesn't even get you a car today. But there's no inflation, really? Come on. Are you that naive? I was chasing the gold thing. We didn't get it. Silver rounds. We ran them at the end of this week. I'm not even going to change the price. Silver rounds, $320 a roll. That puts it at about 80 cents over spot. If you buy, going to make it a little better for you. If you buy 10 rolls or more, take it down to $3.15. So 55 cents or so over spot if you buy 10 rolls or more of rounds. Excuse me, 800-951-0592. Tomorrow, I think I'll have something on the gold side. We're working on something. Just didn't come together today. Pay attention for tomorrow. I apologize. I know this kind of got long-winded. But it's the reality. The reason why we have the inequality today, not because of capitalism. Because of the central bank and the need to go back to gold and silver. And unfortunately, I think that's exactly where China's headed. I hope you're heading there as well. Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. Everybody take care. Have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow.